On the day, May 3rd, at approximately 12:01 a.m., the brutal murder of Jerry the Mouse occurred. I'm Detective Brooks, and this is Forensic Felines. The call came in at 12:30 a.m. from a local resident cat, Tonks. Well, I was in the middle of my nightly zoomies when I noticed Jerry, in the alley of my favorite diner. When I got to him, it was too late. Tonks was not the only feline at the scene. A Tom and his kitten were both spotted near the scene around the time of death. The two have declined to comment. The crime occurred in the back alley of a well-known diner many cats and mice frequent. The diner's bartender Luna claimed she saw Jerry earlier that night. Yeah, Jerry's a frequent resident in my diner. He came in today to get his usual and left around 11:45. I was doing the dishes in the back, so it was too loud to hear what happened. After canvassing the scene, forensic feline detectives collected DNA samples of the victim, as well as DNA from a cat claw left behind in Jerry's side. A DNA sample from our 4 suspects, victim, and crime evidence were amplified for 2 different VNTR loci and run through a gel to obtain the DNA fingerprints. The cat that matches the claw DNA sample at both loci is our murderer. Our detectives started their analysis on Jerry to rule out suicide. If the claw belonged to Jerry, his DNA would match the DNA of the claw at locus 1 and 2. Jerry's DNA does not match either loci. This crime was not a suicide. Our detectives moved on to our first suspect, Tonks. Tonks' DNA fingerprint matches the claw's DNA fingerprint at locus 1 and at locus 2. Tonks cannot be ruled out as a suspect. Is she the murderer? Luna's DNA was analyzed as well. Luna's DNA matches the claw's at locus 1. At locus 2, her DNA did not match. Due to her DNA not matching both loci, Luna can be ruled out as a suspect. Next, Harley's DNA was analyzed. Harley's DNA does not match the claws at locus 1. At locus 2, Harley's DNA does match the claws, but because it does not match at locus 1, he can be ruled out as a suspect. Lastly, Bonita's DNA was analyzed. One of her alleles matches the claws at both loci, but since both her alleles do not match, she can be ruled out as a suspect. This DNA fingerprint is consistent with Bonita and Harley being related because Bonita would get one allele from Harley in both loci, which she does. Our DNA evidence has found Tonks guilty of the crime. After a long and dramatic criminal investigation, Tonks the Calico was arrested on May 4th and brought to the NCSU Penitentiary for the murder of Jerry the Mouse. This has been Detective Talia with Forensic Felines.